minute to get rolling, and I'll let you know when it does, and then I will mute and turn my video off.
How would we ever know if there's public comment?
They should be coming into Nick. Nick, do you get the public comment? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, they would send me.
Okay, we are live, guys. Just so you know, you can keep discussing that. I just did want to let you know that we are live.
Okay. So is that how they don't like log in, or it's just what they email to Nick?
Yeah, Steve, in response to your question, if they had any comments in advance of the meeting, they could contact me, and we would either, if they could either share those through email, or they could we could set up a way for them to video in as well. But we try to control who we have coming in and out of the video feed, so they'd have to let us know in advance.
Okay. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Our first agenda topic is, do we have any public comments of items not on the agenda? Nick, would you say no?
We do not.
Okay. Second item is approval of our meeting minutes, which we haven't seen. So I haven't seen them, right?
No, they have not been released yet. You should have them by next meeting.
Okay. We're just zooming right through our topics here. Third one is stormwater management funding. Nick has sent out a 4-page memorandum asking for feedback. Did you, besides myself, did you get any other feedback, Nick?
I did not receive any other comments from anyone else, but if you wanted to just, and we probably don't even need to go down the list of everyone, but if you just want to, if anyone has any comments that they wanted to share, any changes that they wanted to share, please feel free to do so now. Otherwise, Steve, I'll share the memo here in just a minute. Okay. And just try to hit on a couple of the comments that you had left me just really quickly, and let you know how we can sort of incorporate any of the changes that you had sent along.
Okay. So are you going to share, or?
Yep, I will take everyone else's silence as not having any.
Did I go around the horn and ask, or just take the silence?
I did have one quick question.
Yeah, Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, I thought it was really well written, and I just wanted to ask, just for clarification, this particular bucket of money that's been used in the past, just how much is the dollar amount, and then is that used fully each year?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and what I'll do is I'll follow up and send the commission the exact answers to those questions, because I cannot off the top of my head think how much is allocated for the Beautify Your Neighborhood grant program, but I want to say that one's like $25,000 a year, and it's not always used fully every year. So it's as you could imagine, it's an application approval process. So I think they do it every either 6 months or every year. And so they might receive 12 applications for requests, or they might receive 0. And so there are some times when it's a competitive process and they have to make some decisions. And there are other times when it's an easy decision because there's only a couple or there's none at all. So It doesn't always get used fully, and that would just go right back into the general fund because that's where those dollars are coming from. The other program that is similar to sort of what we had discussed and what we had shared from Bowling Green is a relatively new program that the city has implemented over the last few years. And that one is it's the Historic Dublin Facade Program. So businesses that would like to make improvements on the aesthetics of their facade of their business, and it doesn't have to be you know, a specific type of business. So any of the businesses down in that area, if they want to make some improvements, I believe the bucket for that program is 50,000. And I think it was a 50% match and up to $15,000, but I'll get the details on those and send those as a follow-up to everyone so that they can see. But those, I believe that it was, those are the parameters of that program. And so they had a pretty successful first year, but I don't believe that they maybe used all of the funding for that one during
Great.
the first year.
Thank you.
On page
Mhm.
3 of the memo, towards the bottom, you have some details about the city program. And I don't know if that's covering this, covering what you're talking about with the facade and whatnot. It says 20 to 30,000 annually, maximum of 3,000, 50% project cost. And it says it's funded through capital improvement program or appropriations. Is that describing that program that we're talking about or you're talking about right now?
That's describing the Bowling Green program, which you know, and we can discuss this right now. Steve had a comment about toward the end, just about shouldn't we provide more specifics about what, you know, what the numbers would look like, what the match would look like. And I think that that's an appropriate conversation for this commission to have, but I don't know that we want to include it in the recommendation, because ultimately if city council wants to just accept it, they're going to have to either have the city bring forward a recommendation, or I think what our recommendation would be is for them, because they're going to have a reviewing body for it, and it's probably going to be one of their council committees, because that's who already does the facade program, that's who does the Beautify Your Neighborhood program. So I think what would be likely is one of their committees would work with staff to solidify what the parameters of that program would look like if they accept the recommendation. So I don't think that we want to include it in your recommendation to them, because that sort of pins them in to any sort of decision. But at the same time, I think we can say, you know, what the commission discussed, if they were to ask that question, is commission discussed a 50% match, which I think we did at the last meeting. You know, as far as a bucket of money, I think what we discussed was anything between like 30 to 50,000, I think is sort of what, because I believe somebody asked Matt Stifler that question as well, and that's sort of what he said as well. But I think we'd look to make that that recommendation from our finance department in partnership with council. So, so to answer your question, Dee, the part that was in the memo is referring to Bowling Green, but I think we would shoot for our program, if that was something that we would pursue, I think it'd look pretty similar to what Bowling Green does when you get to those numbers, you know, that 50% match, the 20 to 30,000, because I think what we've seen at a staff level is that we might have one or two, if that, neighborhoods coming forward and asking about, you know, is there some money that we can use to help with this big project that we weren't anticipating. Now we're underwater as an HOA, we need some help. Do you have a program that can help us? Those types of things we're only seeing maybe once a year, maybe once every 2 years. So, you know, what does that cost usually look like, and backing into a number from there? And I think that would tend to look like the 20 to 30,000.
So using that kind of as an example of a structure we would do.
Sorry, Dee, you're kind of quiet again on your computer, so.
I have to remember to speak very loudly here. So this is just an idea of what might be done by our city as far as providing a grant program for this specific thing.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other comments? You gonna bring up my document then?
Yes, I'll bring it up here in just a moment.
They were all suggestions.
Okay. Can everybody see the Word document?
No.
No?
Yes.
Now, yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so Steve, I incorporated the majority of the just comments and stuff that you
Oh, okay.
included. I'm just going to run down the comments, and I tried to provide just my own responses to them so that I could remember them during this meeting. So the first item that you had included was the nuance of when this was initially, our recommendation was initially made, or the commission's recommendation was initially made to City Council back in February. And so after going back and watching it for like the 5th time, they don't actually accept the recommendation from the commission because they didn't want to accept it without any exploration of a funding mechanism. So this was sort of the wording that I landed on. At the very end here, you'll see council had a robust discussion regarding the funding of this maintenance and ultimately referred the topic back to the commission. And then, so that was sort of a reworking that I did based on some of the comments that you.
Okay.
So I appreciate that because that helped me sort of round that piece out a little bit. You did ask here if there's a percentage or range that sort of quantify this statement, which would be great, but the EPA doesn't really provide any of those percentages or ranges. So we just don't have anything to add in there specifically.
I thought that might have been in our intern's report. He didn't have a number in there at all? Kirby's report?
We did not.
Okay.
And I had followed up with him too to see if he had come across anything that we could provide. And he said they didn't really provide anything that he recalled in his report.
Okay.
You had a comment about which I thought was good on the graphic here about fee type, and it's confusing when you don't have a legend, right? So
Right.
We're just gonna pull that column out because I don't think it's really necessary to get into the weeds on any of this anyway. So we're gonna pull that column out before we provide the final recommendation. So so I appreciate that comment. For this one, you would ask for us to provide some more detail about the approaches.
Well, that's because I kind of forgot what that one was. And we didn't have any meeting minutes to go back to, so.
No, I completely understand, and we'll discuss this here in a minute when we talk about taking our recommendation to City Council. But ultimately, it should be reflected in the minutes once we have those finalized, what the approach is, and it should be in the presentation as well a little bit. And I think what we tend to want to lean on is just focusing on the overview and the recommendation in the process in this recommendation and memo, and not get bogged down too much in any of the details. So we would probably just look to refer them to the meeting minutes, but obviously we would be prepared to respond to any questions they'd have about the other approaches at their meeting if they were to ask that as well. So I think we just look to respond to that if it was raised during the council meeting, but not necessarily include in the memo if you're comfortable with that.
Okay.
And so I know I talked about this a little bit, but I'll just reiterate one more time. I think for our approach here, we just want to sort of, especially with all of the discussion that council had at their last meeting about all of the different nuances that exist with funding and their different sort of stances when it comes to the funding of some of this stormwater maintenance, is to try to leave this open for them so that we can simply say, we've explored all of the possibilities and what we believe are options for funding the maintenance of these basins. And our recommendation to you is to explore a grant program and just sort of leave it at that for them to either choose to move forward with or choose not to move forward with. And I hesitate a little bit to start to name the specific maintenance projects or to put some parameters around the cost, because I think that might just lead to more, it may lead to just sort of more talking and discussion that might bog down their discussion in whether or not they want to accept this recommendation or that recommendation, or to refer it back or something like that. So I think it's at least my opinion that we should just try to keep this sort of broad and straightforward for them. And if they do accept it, then they can start to get into what they want that program to look like. And particularly, I think because they're going through their budget process right now as well, this allows them to say, ooh, okay, we do like the idea of a grant program, but we really only have $20,000 out here to use for the program right now. Could we just do that? And those types of things. So I just don't want to limit their ability to accept the recommendation because we decided to put
Okay, that's fair.
some specific parameters around. So that's sort of why I hesitated to get too into the weeds there on that piece.
Okay,
Questions? And you guys can certainly disagree with me as well. If we want to put some stuff like that in here, I think that that's totally fine. That would just be my recommendation to the commission, is to keep it sort of at this level in granularity. And that is all I have. And if you all have no other questions, then we can say we don't like the changes, we don't like your memo, or we do like the memo and we want to advance it, and we can go from there.
we need a motion to advance or just a discussion?
Well, if there is no discussion, then I think a motion to either accept the recommendation or not would be appropriate.
Okay,
Steve, I'll make the motion to advance staff's recommendation to council.
any seconds?
I
Second.
second.
Jim seconded. All in favor, raise your hand per Zoom. Anyone against? Okay, motion is approved. So when would this get to, Nick, when would this get to council, and when would I assume we would present this to council, or I would? You're on mute. Hey, Nick, you're on mute. Okay.
I got it. Sorry, I got too many screens going on, so it takes me a hot minute to get the mute off. So yes, we would have a member from the commission, and Steve as chair. That would be you, unless you are uncomfortable doing it, or
I like to.
okay. So we could do it at the September 28th meeting, and I think we could easily have it ready by then. My only concern with that is that we don't have the minutes from our last meeting accepted by and approved by the commission. So my thought was, will those minutes be included? Is there a way to get those included tentatively into that council meeting or not? But if we want to wait until after our next meeting so that we know that we will have those minutes available for council to review, then I want to say we'd have to wait until October 26th to make the recommendation. So, sorry, I'm looking at, because our next meeting would be October 13th, and there's a council meeting the day before. And I did not have this epiphany until like an hour ago. So Otherwise, I would have been more prepared with an answer for you. What we could do is, Steve, if you're comfortable or if you're available for the September 28th date, we can sort of tentatively look at that as the day for our recommendation to be presented to council. And if for whatever reason we can't get those minutes from our August meeting in there, then we can just plan for the October 26th meeting. I'd like to hear what if any of you all have a preference one way or another for that. I just think it would be more appropriate to make sure that we have all of our minutes included, especially since we tend to lean on those as sort of more of the detail of the process as opposed to the recommendation being brought forward. So.
Hey, Nick, can is it only one person allowed on the meeting, or can I join with Steve on that meeting? Whenever we decided.
Sorry, one second. I'm trying to stop share, so it'll be easier for us to converse. The entire commission is welcome to attend the council meeting. We would just look to have one person represent or speak on behalf of the commission there, but we would love to have as many of the commission members present as possible. Although it is a virtual meeting, so maybe we look to limit it to 2. But Vivek, I'll make sure that you're included on whichever meeting it is.
Right.
Well, if we had the minutes before, it just seems like, I guess I would like to see us try and do the 28th. If we had the minutes before and we could approve them or, via email and then we can move forward.
I'll tell you what, let me do some follow-up on my end. Let me ask this question. If I'm able to identify a way for us to approve the meeting minutes without sort of, without convening our meeting at the next meeting on October 13th, is everybody okay as long as we get those approved and I identify a way to do that with bringing this forward as a recommendation to council, either at the September 28th meeting or the October 12th meeting? Raise your hand if you're not okay with that. Okay, great. Well, that will be the plan, but Steve, you and I'll work with you directly to sort of get this all figured out on when we'll bring this recommendation forward to council. And then as soon as we identify and solidify the date that's going to be brought forward, I'll make sure the entire commission is made aware.
Okay, and logistically or mechanically, I should say, I would write the I saw what Marilyn, right? She had done. So I would do the same thing, write a narrative and share with you.
Yeah, so Steve, I'll work with you directly and we'll put together a little presentation that can kind of get it teed up and give them an overview of here's all the fun stuff that we've done and here's when you heard about it last and all of that. And then I'll work with you, get you some talk. We can work on some talking points, but what your goal will be is to sort of to represent the discussion that took place within the commission. So we'll shoot to sort of highlight, the things that you and the rest of the commission found important throughout the process as you listened to staff presentation, as you worked through the different options and the pros and cons that existed within that, and then ultimately sort of driving home what your recommendation is and why that's the commission's recommendation. But I'll work with you. You and I will set up a couple of times for the two of us to just chat and walk through. And I'm all about run-throughs and practice runs, so we can do a couple of those if you want. We do plenty of those before this meeting right here. So that won't be anything new for us, and we'll get you set up.
Okay, and I have lots of daytime accessibility, which would be
Perfect.
helpful. All right. That abundant. I am abundant in daytime availability. Okay. So I guess we go look at our next agenda topic. Future CSAC topics. And the intent of this item was that we don't lose sight of things that we came up with as a individually or as a group. So if we have a lull period, we don't have to go back and figure out what we want to work on. Seems like we should have an active queue, and either probably not this meeting, but at least next meeting, we should prioritize that queue. So well, I don't think we would not be right for the 28th, but perhaps the October meeting with council, I guess it wouldn't be a presentation, but it could be a memo saying these are things that CSAC has thought of, being beneficial to the city that we would like to work on.
So
Unless you have a queue coming down from the city, which I'm not aware of.
So I have a couple of updates to provide here.
Okay.
So October meeting, I have spoken to our planning department, and they have a couple of mobility projects that they'd like some feedback on. I know this is something that maybe not all of our current commission members, but many of you have helped with in the past and assisted with, and they have found your feedback valuable. And they'd like to come forward and get a little bit more feedback on some projects that they're currently working on. So J.M. Rayburn has offered to come and present and get some feedback, who many of you are familiar with and have heard from before. So that would be that I have identified for the October meeting.
Okay.
In our November meeting, I have spoken to Tom Hershey, who he manages the city's emergency management and disaster preparedness efforts. And I spoke to him and asked if he would be willing to come give an overview of sort of what the city does in that space, all of the training that we work on and do on as staff, but also talking a little bit about the different policies and procedures that we have in place and how that has evolved over sort of the last 6 to 7 months now, and sort of what the city's doing in response to some of that. Just to give you an overview, I know that was something that was brought up a couple of different times as an area that's definitely of interest to this commission. So he is available in November and would like to come forward and chat with you all, give you an overview update on that topic and answer any questions that you might have. And then one topic that I have that I want you to be aware, because it might come forward to you, it might not. I'm not entirely sure yet. I still need to work with our Deputy City Manager, Megan O'Callahan, and have a few other conversations with some folks in the city. But our snow removal plan and process, there's been some discussion about just offering the opportunity for residents and community members to come forward and share any concerns or comments that they might have regarding snow removal, and just for you all to receive an overview of that plan and provide some feedback on it. They're in the process of sort of reevaluating it and making sure that they have everything covered as the city continues to, develop and learn more about our different policies and processes that exist. So it would sort of be a twofold meeting. So they'd look to get some feedback on that plan, but we'd also look to advertise and highlight the meeting a little bit more so that residents and community members are aware and have the opportunity to maybe come forward and use the CSAC meeting as a platform for them to also share their thoughts and concerns regarding that topic as well. So, we could get 20 people showing up, we could get 0 people showing up, but that's something that is out there, and I wanted to make you all aware as well, There has been some discussion about that possibly being a topic.
And when would you see that happening?
It could be soon, but or it could be. I think if you're going to see it, it's going to happen within the next couple of months. I would think that we would, because I mean, ultimately, if that's something we want to reevaluate, we'd like to do it now. We probably wouldn't do it in the middle of snow season. Although it wouldn't be bad to do it in the middle of snow season because that's when people have their strongest opinions about our snow removal. So I'm sure there's some benefits to do it then as well. But my understanding is that they're looking to have this discussion now, sooner rather than later. Soon.
Okay.
So I would think October, November would be the time frame for them to start that. And obviously, we would just look to push the other topics if that one were to come forward, since that one has a little more urgency with it. But you know, that could be a topic that we address. This could be the only time we ever speak of it, and unless you guys remind me of it at other meetings. But I will keep you apprised of that and let you know if that's a topic that's going to come forward to this commission.
Okay. Personally, I would find it of interest, but is anyone opposed to hearing that on the commission? Okay. So it sounds like we would be interested. Another thing that came up, I didn't even know where City was going to do it. It kind of came up in some of our CSAC about composting and how I guess it's either a pilot or official program. I'm not even sure now, but it may be. Oh, go on.
Sorry, are you asking about the drop-off program?
Is it drop off or pick
So there's a drop-off program.
for compost? Food?
Sorry.
For food composting?
Yeah, so for food waste recycling, so the city got a small grant from SWACO to do a food waste drop-off composting program. It was we're funded up to I think 400 free buckets to the community. I'll have to follow up with 500. But I know that last time I talked to Michael Darling, who is managing the program, that we had over 300 people already signed up within the first week of the program. There were some concerns from residents with the original drop-off location. So we ended up moving the location to the service center. Ultimately, I don't know that the location of the drop-off is necessarily going to have an impact on the program one way or the other. So this seemed to appease all the rest of the residents that had concerns. So this is where we're going to do it for the time being. But I am loosely involved with the program, but I could certainly talk to Michael and see if, as you know, we get through a certain point, if he'd be willing to come to the commission and you know, provide a little bit of an update on the program to this group, especially with your experience, some of your experience, you know, reviewing our sustainability plan as well.
Yeah, because I was wondering if they had criteria for success and, you know, how they were tracking to that criteria.
Yeah, that would definitely be something that we could share with the commission. And I think we're definitely measuring some different aspects of that program to see how we're executing on it and how people are, you know, enjoying it and what their experience is with it. So.
Okay. Anybody on the commission have topics they would like to see us bring forth to the city council? I could go around the horn and ask. How about D? You're on mute, D.
I don't have any detail about this other than a friend of mine who's.
You gotta speak up again.
I have a friend who's a neighbor who is an avid dog park user,
Okay.
and she has some issues related to the dog park, especially the one at Dairy Fields, that she wanted to bring forward. So she sent me a quick email. I'll have to get more details about it. I don't know if that's anything that we would want to discuss or even high on anybody's priority list, but I told her I would give voice to her concern.
D, if you want to have either you or if you forward it along to me, I'll get it to our parks director and they can provide some response on it. That's definitely something that we get in on our either in our office or into our parks office relatively regularly is those types of requests. And sometimes it's stuff that's, people will find out that we have stuff that's programmed, whether it's, a couple years or 5 years out, there's some plans to do that type of stuff. And, hearing from residents about what they'd like to see is definitely the type of information that we want to know, the type of feedback we
I'll
want.
forward her email to you then.
Okay.
You're mute.
Karen mute, sorry.
I'm having a little chaos in the house right now. Tom, you have any? No? Vivek? Anything you'd like to bring up?
Probably, I don't know, this, this one's brought up from one of my friend, like when I started this position a long time ago. This is about the bike path that Dublin was trying to connect with all the way to the downtown Columbus. I'm not sure, actually. I was looking for detail. I totally forget about it. Probably if something else, maybe I will bring that maybe next meeting with much more detail. Probably we'll go through that and see have anything on that.
Vivek, that's another thing. If you want to, if you want to share that information with me directly too,
Sure.
that's something that we'll make sure we're incorporating in, in our regular city reviews. So we actually have a sort of cross-functional group that meets once a year to discuss sort of all of the with basically capital improvement related bike path programmed projects.
All right.
And just sort of, we have a discussion about the prioritization of those different connections and extensions and all of those different things. So that would be helpful information for us to have as we continue to convene that. So that group usually convenes a little bit around the start of the year. So we try to get ahead of the capital improvement program process. So that would be something that would be beneficial for us. What I will say is that's something that we have long wanted to see made as a connection into the Olentangy, a sort of low impact connection into there certainly are ways to get connected to the Olentangy trail, but they're not necessarily the easiest connection accessibility ways to get it connected. So that's long been a goal of the city, is to get some more low impact connections into that trail and obviously down to downtown Columbus. So our biggest challenges with those are, at times working with townships and the other jurisdictions that are involved, and even just Columbus investing money in those specific areas where we would need to see the connections take place. So, but with all that being said, if you share that information with me, whether it's at the next meeting or just directly,
Sure.
we'll definitely provide some response on that.
Okay, I'll do it. Thank you. Like that's the one. I think you were mentioning a while ago. So you're going to bring the CA of Chief Information Officer from Dublin. Sorry, is it still on the plan?
Yeah, so that's another one that I'm working on, and so Doug and I both work in the city manager's office, so we work closely together, and I'm working with him to identify a good meeting to have him come in and give some updates on all of the Connected Dublin projects and all of those good things as well. So
right.
My thought, I'll share with you all, my thought is to try to get him in maybe either in December or maybe early next year, just because we have some really cool projects that they've been doing, but I think we'll have even more stuff for him to be able to share with you all a few months from now, especially after we get through this budget cycle and get some of those approved as well. It'll be cool for him to share some things that are both in progress and also some ones that'll be coming forward after they get through the budget cycle and officially get them approved.
Okay, that's fine. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek. Gary, you have anything you'd like to see the council, our commission work on?
I'm good.
Okay, Jim?
Yeah, I had a few things I just wanted to put on the table. Vivek had the one thought I had too around connectivity. And, when I ride my bike, the bike paths are great, but the area between the Muirfield Pool on Glick Road, you're basically kind of out of luck. You got to ride your bike on Glick Road or walk your bike from there over to the Walgreens CVS Dublin interchange there. And I didn't know, it seemed like that would be a logical spot to continue a bike path. So that kind of ties in a little bit with what Vivek says about connectivity. So I just want to put that out there as something that may be being looked at already, or maybe do the dynamics of what's going on with different cities, just want to put that out as one thought.
Okay.
Hey, Jim, how recently I know we just did a bike path improvement down in that Glick Road area, down by that CVS, I want to say. And so I don't know if sorry, I know I keep saying this to all of you individually, but if you send me sort of where that area is, I can do some follow-up on it and let you know if that's the specific area that we just did some stuff with. I know that we just did something within like the last few months.
Okay.
I
was there probably last time I was there was maybe a month ago.
Okay.
So it sort of dips back into the Muirfield area versus going straight, but maybe I'll have to drive over there and take a look myself. But the other couple areas that I was interested in, maybe we could think about, one is the whole idea about labeling some important outdoor resources within Dublin. It seems like there's so many different places that I go where it would be wonderful to have just a little signage that would describe what might be occurring, at that location. And just a few examples, like the Ferris Wright Park is a wonderful park there, and I know the website provides a lot of really good information, but if you go to that site, like I did the other day as a bicyclist, you really don't know what it is. It just looks like it's a restroom. It doesn't really tell you anything about the earthworks or about the history of the farm that was there. So I just bring that up as an example. And if you look at some of the other areas, the Scioto River has such a great history to, this area, and people gain more appreciation about understanding, the rock composition, the various types of fish and other wildlife around there that are fun to look at. And Leather Lips is, another thing. The other one is Amberley Park. That Deer Run area it's sort of like it's a hidden gem. I mean, it looks more spectacular to me than Indian Run. So I just look at some of these different areas that we have within Dublin, and could we somehow just through a visual give people more appreciation of the resources that we have? So maybe there's probably a master plan around it that may be pluses and minuses for doing that, but I just want to put that out as just someone who happens to visit those areas.
Okay.
And then the third area I was looking at was more like for the older folks, the seniors. And I know that we have the Forever Dublin, which I guess you all were really instrumental in guiding that along last year before. And it looks like a wonderful website. But I was looking at how we could maybe somehow tap into more of the seniors and somehow expand the classes that seniors might be able to be involved with. I'm thinking of different things that, of course, we have right now at the rec center. Personally, I worked with Marilyn and Stacy to create a harmonica class, and we taught. I had full classes every time I taught harmonica there. So there was an untapped need. All we had to do was publicize it. But there's lots of other people out there in Dublin that have expertise in so many different skills. And I know that there are volunteer forms that you can fill out to send in, but if there was a way that we could more actively recruit people who have latent talents, that they haven't used, I think other people in Dublin who are seniors would enjoy learning from them. And I'm thinking of simple things like even teaching, like music. I've kind of discovered a lot lately. Someone who might want to teach a guitar lesson as a volunteer, or someone who might want to teach people magic tricks so the seniors can entertain their grandkids, or just simple things like that. But it seems like there would be opportunities for us to put some work around trying to get more people involved, because I personally found it very rewarding to do the teaching that I did, and I learned a lot and gained a lot of relationships with other seniors in Dublin. So that topic of how we could expand on, classes and help other people would be great. I know it's challenging now with COVID, but by the time, a year from now, things are going to be different. So.
Those are great, Jim. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Elizabeth, anything you'd like to see us propose? No? Okay. Did I get everyone? I think so. Okay. So one thing I asked Nick to do was maintain a log where we keep this, well, documented so we don't have to rediscover and, invent this list every time. So I think that'd be helpful for us.
Steve, what I'll do is, and I was just thinking through this after I got your email today. I'll put together just a calendar type deal for us that's just always sort of running for a year out. And I mean, recognizing that, we're probably only going to know or have an idea of what's maybe on there for the, couple months in advance. But, there will be times where we get, a big project and we just have some things stack up and we'll want to put those and organize them out. But at the bottom of that calendar, what I'll do is I'll have our sort of list of things that have been raised either throughout different meetings as potential topics, whether it's, where we directly ask each other or, directly ask you, what would you find interesting to work on, or what would you be interested in learning about? Or if it's just the type of stuff that sort of crops up naturally during work on related and other projects. So I'll try to use that so that we have it there for every meeting and we don't feel like we have to keep coming back to these.
Right, and my intent was to prioritize because we feel strongly about something. Like to have, I'd be happy, with the commission's endorsement, go back to council saying, we have a lull in our activities. This is something we believe you should, commission us, to go work on. I mean, that'd be my thinking. I mean, that's the whole intent of the list. Right? You agree? Well, at least that's my thinking.
Yeah.
So we don't have lulls, like since we meet once a month, if we have a lull, we already missed 1/12 or 1/10 of the year with our summer break. Okay. Anything else about future CSAC topics? No? Okay, any other items of interest? Anybody like to bring up? D, anything? Gary? Jim? Vivek?
No.
Elizabeth? Thomas? Okay. So our next meeting is October 13th. And hopefully, we'll get the meeting minutes approved via email so we could present and at least use the 13th to, share the feedback we received. Okay, with that, our meeting is adjourned. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank
Have
you.
a good month.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank
And
you,
we'll keep
Cindy.
you posted
Sandra.
about our recommendation for funding.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Nick, anything before we hang up?
No, you all have a wonderful evening.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Yeah.
thanks. Bye-bye.